right, so those of you who are in Tennessee, guess what? House Bill 2689 is getting ready to pass. That is requiring paternity tests before you sign the birth certificate. Because, you know, when people do paternity tests, 1/3 of the time, they end up not being the father, and if they start testing everybody, that number can only go up, not down. It's going to be dramatic, and right now they're starting to also add in things like, you know, maternity fraud is a crime and a punishable crime. So guys used to go to jail for not paying child support on a child that wasn't theirs because the state wants to get their money. Because if there is no father to pay for the child support, somebody has to pay for it. So they push it onto the nearest person that could be a father figure. And they're actually starting to jail time the ladies for maternity fraud because it is such a rampant crime. And yes, it's a crime.
This representative, Antonio Parkinson, is sponsoring House.
Crazy how we don't have even laws that are, you know, we don't have laws that go against that practice. It's just, you can't make this stuff up, folks. I'm telling you.
Bill 2698 that would require DNA evidence proving paternity before a man signs a birth certificate for a child that may not be biologically his.
The state has been turning a blind eye to this by allowing people to sign blindly without any proof of DNA association to this child, which is allowing people to be guilty, or in some cases, of paternity fraud, which is a crime. It's only right and the moral thing to do, an ethical thing to do, to ensure that the right people's names that match their DNA is on that birth certificate. Anything other than that, you are stealing a child from a biological parent, and it's state sanctioned.
3,000 women who, since their divorce, decided to stop working and live off the sweat of someone else's brow in a capitalist country where every penny must be hard. A man has to spend his entire life
Hey, shout out to the AI, man. That AI looks funny as hell, man.
supporting someone who chose not to return to work. Finally, a fair law for men. This should have been approved a long time ago, and only in Florida but nationwide.
I completely understand where you're coming.
I think the AI had it wrong. I think that was in Tennessee. Well, the alimony was in Florida, but that should be nationwide.
Coming from with the DNA testing should be mandatory, but it has to be a little bit more nuanced than that. So is the DNA test mandatory anytime he calls for it? Yes, absolutely. You should be able to say, I want to know that for sure that little brat running around over there straight came out of my ball sack. This I have to know because I am legally obligated to pay for it, and I'm not paying for it if it came out of somebody else's ball sack. In that case, 100%. But should it be mandatory in every single case, irregardless of all circumstances? Now you're asking people to give up liberty. Because the last time we heard mandatory, it involved a pokey pokey, and it ruined a lot of lives.
Man, this stuff, man, disingenuous, man. So here's the problem, though. What you're saying is it's always convenience. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's always this convenience trying to protect the sisterhood kind of thing. It doesn't do any good to nobody. But when it comes down to just really cracking down this kind of power of the modern women, it's always go back to all these whataboutism.
So that's just my gut pushback. Is just like, you've got to be so super careful when you decide everybody must. It's just this really slippery slope. But for men that want it,
what about the child support?
game on like Donkey Kong.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug. Do you know what would happen if DNA testing was mandatory? If they tested all women?
You definitely not.
Calamity.
My sister told me the other day this should be standard. My sister told me that last week.
That's why they won't do it.
She said it should be a standard thing at the hospital.
But that's why they won't do it. To me, it just makes sense. Give an epidural, DNA test.
I'm doing a documentary on the court system here in the UK,
and I was interviewing this guy. He works for, it's called Fathers for Justice, and they help men get custody of their kids. And one thing I found out is in the UK, you are actually given a free counsel, which is a lawyer basically, if you accuse your husband of abuse. And what the women can do is they can accuse the guy of abuse and file a restraining order against him even if he did nothing. And if he breaks that, he actually goes to jail.
Wow.
Yeah. And it can take 1 to 2 years to even get the kid back. So you could have a newborn and not see the kid for 2 years over a false allegation.
Welcome to the Democratic Party. This made me laugh, of course. Nothing bothers you until it comes for your money.
Oh, what's up here,
I've
bro?
met women who still have boyfriends and won't remarry to keep receiving this money.
The AI
it's
is
just
behind
so
the
good
wall.
to get a check without working. And if this man increases his income,
Memphis, Tennessee, that's being proposed for, it makes it mandatory for unmarried fathers to take DNA tests to sign birth certificates. You know what that means, fellas? That means that you ain't got to worry about, you're the father because I said so. What if I'm not the father? You ever thought about that? So what you're saying is that you're not going to take care of us? Oh, this is not your baby now? I wasn't with you for these past 2 years? I'm not saying you was with me for the last past years. I know that, but who else were you with? Oh, I see what you on. The only thing I'm on is to find out if this baby is mine or not. So, you know, there's a lot of guys that have lost out on so much time because they've been taking care of kids that weren't theirs. Not saying that's not a problem to do so, but at least give me the right to know if that's my child or not. I just hope that this bill makes it to be law. It's just something that I personally, for me, is very important to know that this is happening now, because for so many years it just seems like guys have not been getting the break they needed. So again, look at this bill, guys. It's out of Memphis, Tennessee. The article came from Fox 13 down there, so check it out, guys. I'm telling you, this bill is serious. After all, you know, a lot of men have lost their jobs. You know, a lot of people have lost their licenses and stuff for driving because of child support. This stuff is real. This is really real, and it affects so many people. And on top of that, you know, it just need to be done. I mean, fathers deserve that much. As you can see, they ain't ready for this. No, they ain't ready.
No, they're not ready.
It's funny because it's true.
As you're in Tennessee, guess what? House Bill 2689 is getting ready to pass. That is requiring paternity tests before you sign the birth certificate. Because, you know, when people do paternity tests, 1/3 of the time, they end up not being the father. And if they start testing everybody, that number can only go up, not down. They're actually starting to jail time the ladies for maternity fraud because it is such a rampant crime. And yes, it's a crime.
Hallelujah. This needs to go nationwide.
What's up with her? This is not
Progress, not perfection. But in the meantime, I advise any male that I know to get yourself a DNA kit, belong to another man. Women do this all the time. I'm a woman. I hear what's going on. They'll usually attribute that child, even if that child is from someone else, they'll attribute that child to the best man. The man they feel has the most money or the best ability to be a father. Please, guys, get those babies swabbed.
That sounds kind of crazy. But yeah, you'll be surprised. If you met your female was not a virgin, and she have a, you know, her body count is above 10 or 15, I would suggest to really go and make sure you can man. I would suggest to do so.
I am so excited to see this. Gone are the days coming soon where women can commit paternity fraud. Here is an article from the Tennessean, and it's going around online. State Representative Antonio Parkinson proposed this bill of being the father of her child and making him pay child support for a child that is not his. You know, there are plenty of cases, like there's an example in this article that explains that there was a man that was deemed not the biological father soon after he had already signed a certificate voluntarily that he is the father, because his assumption was that he was the father. He trusted this woman. Then he found out she basically cheated on him, and 5 years into it, he still is responsible to pay child support, but he was not able to make the pay. So what happened? He got placed in jail. Life ruined. Childhood ruined. Relationship with the father probably ruined, non-existent with the biological father, or the DNA test. Common sense, right? But there's going to be a uproar over common sense, because common sense and right versus wrong isn't always emphasized when it comes to America. There's billions of dollars that is being given out, that is budgeted in the state and the federal government by men that did not produce those children. It is billions that's at stake.
It's true.
So
it's true.
They're going to say things in court like, somebody's got to feed him, and it'll be you. Because he voluntarily signed that paperwork. House Bill 2698, Senate Bill 1777. Unwed fathers can still voluntarily sign, but in order for the birth certificate to be officially validated, the signer must provide the results of a DNA test to vital.
So it's voluntarily, right? You don't have to sign it, but you want to say that that kid is yours. You have to sign. You have to do the DNA test. Okay, that's the new addition to it. If you want that kid to be yours, first we have to check that it's yours. Common sense. And if it happens to be yours, sign it over here. It's yours. Common sense.
Records. They said here, $52 million in funding received from the federal government for its child support enforcement programs. That's ridiculous. And that they could receive millions more for reaching a quota of 90% acknowledged births.
Wow.
They're not acknowledging legitimately. They are just trying to fill in the paperwork so they can write that check. And this is the man that men of America have to thank for his initiative, because this is heroic. This is going to help children out having the truth. This is going to help men get the justice that they deserve moving forward if this gets passed, even though obviously they want to kill the bill. And it's going to force women to be more responsible and to take accountability for their crappy ways of how they want to milk men of their finances. There you have it.
Brother, if they wanted someone to support themselves, you didn't take care of your man.
I think that the United States making DNA testing mandatory is stupid.
Listen to that, folks. Listen to that. Listen to that. Let's just go back a little bit.
I think that the United States making DNA testing mandatory is stupid.
Stupid for them because they're giving power away. Listen.
I don't think that, it's something that if you feel like you need a DNA test, go do that on your own time because you feel that way. I don't think every person, there's millions of people in the United States. Like, it doesn't make sense that people could be using that time to do other things. Like, you could be saving a life. You could be in a hospital saving a life.
I personally pay taxes, and I care about where my money goes. I'm not here to pay for so-and-so because there's a confusion about who's the father. That's not...
We can say the same argument for abortion, but we're not doing it so. We can say the same argument for abortion, but we're not doing so.
Not my business. Handle your personal shit. And for me, I want to fund schools. I want to fund the MTA because the trains are never on time. We got bigger problems. We have bigger problems. I'm sorry. I'm not paying for no mandatory test.
Let us understand.
The problem is that we don't want the state to pay for the mandatory test. We can pay for the mandatory test ourselves.
Why it's so selfish of you women who debate and argue against these mandatory paternity tests. Because we hear these stories time and time again. We see numerous clips of men presenting the DNA papers to their women. and say, hey, look, it's proof that I am not the father.
You are not lying. I'm the father of that baby, boss. Boss, I'm that baby's daddy. Out of Pappy.
I don't think there's any issue with a man taking care of another man's child. Women do it all the time, whether you know or not. He might bring another child and say, "Oh, I had this out of our wedlock. You know, what are we gonna do?" Or he's taking your money and paying child support to another family. You had no idea. So when we're just like jumping, like, "Oh, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that." Hold on, it's already being done.
You could have. She's making no sense. Wow.
Been doing so many other things with your life. You could have been figuring your life out. I don't know, feeding pigeons. I don't know, doing anything. But you raising a kid that is not yours. I mean, if you had the option to know that was your kid and you wanted to raise that kid, that's perfectly fine. A lot of people do that. But when you don't know, you're doing it out of the obligation or the mindset that this is my child. I'm gonna raise him or her. I'm gonna raise them up. I love them. This is my DNA. This is my blood. And then come to find out that's not your kid.
I mean, in all honesty, I think, with government, potentially passing a law to make DNA like a must, I think it works out for the best for everyone, in all honesty, because for a kid, I think the kid deserves to know who's their...
I'm sorry, folks. We need... Fellows, we need better... We need stronger language. We need stronger language. We're talking here like we feeling sorry for what is right. Hear these folks, nothing against them, but look at the way they're expressing themselves. Weak.
One, in all honesty, because
like it's like, yeah, I think I think it's common sense, and it makes sense. There's no strength behind these words, even though he's in the right, but there's no strength, and this is where the devil smell weakness.
As for a kid, I think the kid deserves to know who's their real mother and father. And if it's something that we start now, it's something that makes it an easier conversation down the road where it's not necessarily about trust, but it's just something that comes as a part of having a kid. I mean, you've already tested the baby to make sure that it's healthy. Why not test to make sure you understand who the parents are?
Weak language. It's true, right? But it's very weak language. More assertiveness. Some of these guys, they're trying, because they already know these females are coming out, with the lashes, so they're trying to not be too combative. But we have to come up with a stronger language. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.